Why are tattoos in video games something that's topical enough to appear in a law journal?
Well, this kind of goes back actually to Mike Tyson's face tattoo is where this all began. So he got that tattoo put on his face, and the tattoo artist owned the copyright in that and sued one of the movies, I think the first Hangover, and won a copyright infringement suit because a copy of his face, this work of art that he had created, appeared in it. So savvy plaintiffs lawyers and other people have decided there's a little industry here, especially when you think of games like NBA 2K, World Series or not World Series baseball, but the show and Madden. All those people have those tattoos, and the way copyright law works is, in the first instance, the owner of the copyright in the work of art is the author. In this case, it's typically going to be the tattoo artist. And there was actually another case that was against NBA 2K that was in New York. And unlike the one in Chicago, the one in New York actually resolved early. Essentially, what they did was, in that case, um, it wasn't actually the tattoo artists themselves. It was a third party that had gone to the tattoo artist and said, "Oh, you gave a tattoo to, KD, assign me your copyright rights, and then I'll sue on your behalf." And that's what they did. And the judge said, "Well, we've taken depositions of a lot of these tattoo artists, and they said, well, a lot of these weren't really my art. They're from a book that as a tattoo artist, I have in my shop." Um, and the other thing the court found was, in that case, the work of art is, a nice tattoo. Maybe it's on a large man's bicep. That's a fairly sizable piece of work. When you see it in the video game itself, for almost every shot that you're going to see of it, it's going to be a zoomed out camera, and you're going to just be able to see a minimal amount of it. And so for that reason, in the 2K game, they said that's enough. It's not going to be, a copyright infringement. This is either a fair use or de minimis. The flip side is a UFC case, same idea, and there the court said, no, we need a jury to find out. It's too close a call.
It's interesting because I mentioned this leading into your interview, Joe, is there's got to be many things like that we see. You talk about a tattoo, large man's bicep. I threw up some pictures of wrestlers from the 2K game because I read that this might have something to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so noticeable, but kind of subconscious too, right? Like you're not focused on the tattoo, but you're seeing it constantly. And then you think about something recently. I would think it was the DeAndre Hopkins Hail Mary catch in the end zone last week in the Cardinals game. There's a photo that got whatever company that was featured as a brand on the glove, probably, or something like that. An infinite amount of dollars worth of publicity, right? So
Oh,
clearly that's getting so much screen time. Subconsciously, it's getting that airtime. So I bring this up to ask you, what else might we be taking for granted in video games that actually kind of has some intellectual property implications to them?
I mean, streaming in general. I mean, that's really the companies. It's but for the grace that streamers go forward. I mean, no one's litigated it. Who knows how it would turn out? I can't tell you that, but I think whether there's even a right to just stream a game, because then you get into nuances. Okay, there's a straight playthrough, with no commentary. Then there's, a walkthrough that's guiding you through the game. Then there's something like a quick look on Giant Bomb that's, pure criticism. And those all are going to be on a spectrum, and it's going to be a mess if they ever decide it's not worth it to keep allowing streaming to go forward. Of course, they do it now because it's a great set. I mean, it's free advertising. I mean, I was just watching you play Apex, and I was like, I haven't played Apex in forever. It looks very different. I got to check it out. And so they allow it because they can get that free marketing off of it. But they could shut it down if they wanted to. I bet. I mean, because you think about your average streamer. It's just somebody who is operating out of their home, and they don't have a war chest to fight a music label or, a large video game publisher if one of the big ones decided to do it. I mean, Nintendo's come as close as you can see as you have, as you have to that. And I think they've kind of reversed that course somewhat. Just if you look at the way they've behaved more recently, because they've realized the financial benefit of allowing streaming and how it makes the game more popular and really takes a life of its own, on a life of its own.
Yeah, Joe Grasser is our guest, intellectual property lawyer, talking about video games. And I have brought that up because my background is radio. And I remember we had to be sure we had the licensing. Granted, we would subscribe to pretty umbrella type licensing that gave us most of the stuff we wanted to use. But it's like, do we have the right to use that? And when all the DMCA stuff started to happen with Twitch, I actually wasn't that surprised because I was surprised how long they were able to do it without having to worry about. Where did you come in this recent DMCA news with certain streamers getting banned because of music?
It's frustrating. It's like you said. I mean, it had been happening for so long where they weren't making the enforcement on it, and it caught a lot of streamers off guard. Now that said, I and I know some of my colleagues that are in the video game space was telling people, be careful with licensed music, even if it's in the game. They will come one day, and it did come. And it's a shame that the it couldn't have been handled more smoothly in a more methodical rollout, just because it caught so many people off guard. And I think that's the really unfortunate part because I think, for the most part, I don't think any streamer wants to run afoul of any law. They're doing their best to just make their show entertaining, and I don't think that's their intent in any way. I think it's just a matter of giving them tools and educating people and explaining what the do's and don'ts are, and I think that's going to get better over time. I think this is such a nascent industry. It's still going through its growing pains, and I think this is going to be seen as a relatively big growing pain, but one that I think ultimately will hopefully benefit everybody. Because what I could see happening too is just like in radio, you can get these blanket licenses. You know, at some point, I don't know when, but I think you're going to see the same type of licenses available. Okay, you're going to go on to Twitch or you're going to go on to YouTube Gaming or whatever it is. You can purchase for an extra bit. You can purchase a license to have music playing in the background. I think that's where we're going to go, and that's only going to make everyone, that rising tide should lift all boats. And you have a better stream, you get more subs, therefore you can pay for the music, because music is valuable. It makes the stream much more enjoyable. I think everyone agrees, and especially when it's not that royalty free stuff.
Yeah, and we're trying our best whenever we are putting stuff on stream to have attribution and whatnot. But I know that if we are fortunate enough to grow and build an audience, we're going to be dealing with some of the same kind of things as well. We might deal with them now, even when we aren't with a mass audience. Joe, let's close with this. I loved your intro. You actually wrote this for me. Nerdy intellectual property lawyer, lover of video games. What is it about the video game world that you absolutely love?
It's I just think it's the most interesting media that there is around. You can, just have a blast and have it be pure play. That's no storyline, or you can have, a real cinematic story that's moving, like The Last of Us in The Last of Us Part Two, all within the same interactive medium. And I think you can just get much more immersed in it. And then the other part that's kind of cool about it is it's a great community. I mean, yes, there are dark sides of every community, and the video game is no different than that. But I'm a 40-year-old dad gamer. I'm trash every time I play online, and I get a lot more good jobs than I do, and GGs than I do of you're trash. And that's fun. So it's the social aspect of it too. It's I think it's just such a dynamic medium.
Well, I've been enjoying it, especially during the pandemic, because it's fueled my social extroversion for sure. Having guests like you come on the show as well, Joe Grasser, thanks so much for informing us some small aspects, but certainly worthwhile conversation with IP and video games. And appreciate your time this morning on Gaming.